Yeah, baby. Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Dave's Garage. I'm Dave, and today I'm filming from my camper. I'd like to share something that I've been studying for quite some time. I've been studying metaphysics. So if you've never heard of this term before or what metaphysics is, I'd kind of like to share it with you. Metaphysics is how our thoughts become things in the world. So our thoughts are controlling our reality at all times. So we really need to get a grip on our thoughts. Now, how does this work? So metaphysics, our thoughts become things. Now, our thoughts in our mind, you can't see my thoughts, but my thoughts are actually energy. Okay? So this energy, this thought form in my mind actually creates my reality. So this energy in my mind is creating my outside world. Now the reason that is because my thought energy affects how I feel. And how I feel affects the actions that I take in life, and that creates my life essentially. So real quick example of that. Today I'm in my camper. It woke up Saturday morning. It's raining here. And so whenever it rains, I get thoughts of happiness. Like, I'm going to relax today. I'm going to enjoy this day. And generally my day goes pretty swell. But other people, like you might get up in the morning and see it's raining outside and then start to think bad things like, oh, traffic's going to be terrible. I'm going to be late to work. I might get into a car accident. And you start thinking these bad things. And then that sets up a vibration internally of bad feelings, and that can set you up for a bad day. So we can really change our day by just changing our thoughts. There's a few teachers that I've been studying. Neville Goddard is one, Thomas Troward, and Bob Proctor. So all three of these gentlemen, I would highly recommend. They really go into depth on how our thoughts affect our feelings and our moods, which then create what we then attract to our lives. I've got a little story about how I've proven that metaphysics works, that our thoughts actually do create reality. And I want to share that with you today because I've got some steps that I've written down from reading a Neville Goddard book that actually I put it to the test. I always want to test things. I don't want to just read things and believe them. I want to actually put them to the test and see if they're true or not. So here's what I did. Me and my wife, we like to watch DVDs. So when we go to Walmart, we'll get supplies for the camper, things we need. And I noticed in Walmart they got a discount bin full of movies, and they're usually like about $5. And I got a couple of cool movies, the Friday trilogies with Ice Cube. Bought all three of those for $5. The Rush Hour movies, with Jackie Chan and Chris Tucker, got those. So me and my wife were talking one night, and we were talking about the Austin Powers movies and how funny they were. And I thought, okay, well, that'd be really cool to get that trilogy on DVD to keep in the camper, to watch, from time to time. Manifest something, you have to have a goal. So to put this to the test, I said, okay, well, my goal is to find the Austin Powers Trilogy on DVD for my camper, and I want to find it in this $5 bin at Walmart. So that was my goal. I wrote it down on this piece of paper, and I wrote, I am so happy and grateful now that I own the Austin Powers Trilogy on DVD, bought for $5, what a deal. So that was the goal that I wrote down. That was step one of Neville Goddard's teaching. So I wrote down my intention on a card. It was to own the Austin Powers Trilogy on DVD for $5. I wrote this statement in the present tense, assuming that I already had it. So I assumed the fact that I own the DVD, even though physically I did not have it in my hands yet. I also wrote down what I intended to exchange for the DVD. So a lot of people think like the law of attraction, you can just think, I want $1 million and a $1 million suitcase will show up at your house. Well, it doesn't really work like that. So you have to write down, your goal, what you want, but then you also have to write down what you're willing to give in exchange for it, and think of that in the present tense like it's already happened. On step two, I carried this card around with me. Carried this card around for several weeks, taking out a few times a day to read it and to get emotionally involved with the fact that I already owned this $5 DVD trilogy, even though physically I didn't really own it yet. Step three, on several occasions, I would put myself into a deep meditative state. So I would immobilize my body by closing my eyes, sitting real still, and acting as if I was going to sleep, but never allowing myself to go unconscious. Now I would do this, in my comfortable chair. I would recline back and kind of go into this meditative state. and imagine that I own this DVD. Now, step 4, while I was in this meditative state, I created a scenario of receiving what I wanted using all 5 of my physical senses. So with my eyes closed in this meditative state, I imagined what the DVD would look like. I envisioned it in my mind, actually seeing it in my hands. I imagined what it would feel like in my hands. I imagined what the plastic container would smell like. I imagined what it would sound like tearing away the plastic wrapper, on the DVDs. Sometimes these plastic items can contain a fragrance from the manufacturer. So I imagined smelling the fragrance of this plastic as I opened it up. And then I'm not going to taste the DVD, obviously, of course. But I imagined tasting strawberries in my meditative state. So what I did is I put myself into the state and used all 5 of my senses to imagine this thing that wasn't really there being there. Step 5, I came out of this meditative state and assumed that my desire was already fulfilled, that I already owned the DVD. So for about 4 weeks, I did this on and off for a month. And after a couple weeks, I got curious to see if they even made the Austin Powers Trilogy on DVD. I hadn't even looked at it up to this point. So I pulled out my phone, I Googled it, and it was in fact a real item. They do make the Austin Powers Trilogy. Target had it for $12.99 on Blu-ray. eBay had it for $7.99 on DVD. But I wanted to pay $5. So my goal was bought for $5, what a deal. So that's what I was intending to give for this DVD, was $5. The weeks went past. I would go to Walmart every now and then to get supplies. And every time I was there, I would stop in and check those $5 bins in the middle of Walmart for the DVDs. And I did this on like 4 or 5 different occasions. Each time I was unsuccessful at finding this Austin Powers Trilogy. So after about 4 weeks, I got a little discouraged. I went to a Walmart and my rational mind started to say, well, this is never gonna happen. This stuff is foolish. But then I really had to stop myself and think, well, I've been reading about this metaphysics for multiple years. I've been reading about all these people that kind of create these things, change their lives, do 360s. And they all do it through their thoughts, changing their thoughts. So I stopped right there in Walmart and I said, no, this does work and it will work. I know it'll work. So at that point, I had already looked through the bin, didn't find the trilogy, and kept going. And that's kind of when I stopped myself. And I decided that I was going to turn back and look through this bin one more time. So I went over to the bin. I kind of moved a couple of DVDs and I saw International. And so I grabbed down, pulled it out, and it said International Man of Mystery. It was the Austin Powers Trilogy. And so this is going to be hard to see, but on my receipt here, I paid exactly $5 for it. So it wasn't $4.99, it wasn't $7.99 like Target, it was exactly $5. So what I wrote on my card, I'm so happy and grateful that I own the Austin Powers Trilogy on DVD, bought for $5, what a deal. It was amazing when it came into fruition and I saw it on my receipt that it actually, I found this for $5. I wrote down my goal, my intention. I wrote it down in present tense as if it was already real. I internalized that. I felt that emotionally. And I carry that emotion around with me as though it already happened, and then it wound up happening to me. And so this was really an eye-opener. I've studied and studied a lot, but I've never really put this into practice intentionally. So I have done things unintentionally. So one thing is this camper that I'm in right now. So we travel around the country in our camper. I wouldn't say full time, but usually about 6 months out of the year. 2 years ago, we were coming back from Florida and I kept seeing campers on the road and I thought, well, that would be pretty cool to have a camper and do that. And 2 years later, I'm actually in a camper doing just that, traveling around the country in my camper. So our thoughts really do create our reality. So I'm just gonna end this video by challenging you to think about what you're thinking about daily. We have to get over things like, a lot of times we'll complain about things that our spouse does or our parents did or our boss and this and that. And these negative statements that we say to ourselves set up a negative vibration, which then attracts more of what we don't want into our lives. When we can really attract everything we want into our lives simply by changing our thoughts and changing our emotions to become receptive to what we want. So the energy in our thoughts changes the vibrational energy of our feelings, and that changes what we attract. So you can actually do a 360 in your life and become, you can do, you can have, you can be anything that you want, and it all starts from your thoughts. So I'm just going to read these 5 steps to you again on how to manifest. So step 1, write down your intention on a card. Write it down in the present tense. assuming that you already have it. Like Bob Proctor says to write it down as, I am so happy and grateful now that, and then write down what it is that you want. And then carry it around for days, weeks, months, years if you have to. And take it out every now and then, 2-3 times a day, and read it to yourself. You can read it to yourself in the mirror. You know, looking at yourself when you read an intention is like an affirmation, and it's very powerful. You want to give emotion to the fact that it's already happened, even though your physical senses deny that it's happened. You want to trick your mind into thinking that it's already come into fruition. So step 3, put yourself into a deep meditative state akin to sleep. So kind of go into a trance-like state. You can do that a couple different ways. I like to listen to solfeggio harmonics. If you don't know what solfeggio harmonics is, look it up on YouTube or Apple Music or Pandora. It's sounds and frequencies that can actually physically change your body. The frequency 528 is the frequency of love. So if you listen to 528, it actually affects your heart physically. So step 4 in this meditative state, create a scenario of receiving what you want using all 5 of your physical senses. So let's say if you're a woman and you want a husband, so put yourself in a meditative state and imagine what your husband might look like. Imagine what he might smell like, what he might sound like. You know, imagine having a conversation with this imaginary, man. Imagine having a ring on your finger, what that would feel like. And through using your 5 senses imaginally, that will trick your mind into thinking you already have it, and trick your emotions into feeling the sensation you would have. And then your dream man will show up and you'll get married eventually. Step 5, come out of this meditative state, assuming your desire fulfilled. And you do that for as long as it takes. This isn't like a genie where you just say, hey, I want this, and then it appears. You have to really get involved with your conscious and your subconscious mind. So your conscious mind is what you think with, and your subconscious mind is what you feel with. And when those two link up, that's when you send out the energy to the universe to attract back to you what you want. So I hope this video reaches you well. Hope you find metaphysics interesting enough that you study it on your own. Once again, there's a couple men that I like to study their teachings: Neville Goddard, Thomas Troward, Bob Proctor are 3, just to name a few. But there's many out there. So hope you have a great day. Hope you monitor your thoughts. Hope you create the feelings, desires, and the things that you want to in life. And hope you have a long, fulfilled life. Thanks for watching.